alongside Kenny Freese. You know him, he played for Xavier, and a new guest on not the podcast. Today, we're calling it Ahmad Cast. Ahmad, welcome to the show.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. Long time listener, and I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. So let's get it going.
Yeah, and actually a Blobby recipient too. So add
Yep.
that to the resume. Yeah, you're in the big leagues now. But we're going to talk some Xavier basketball, and our team is 2-0, guys. So a win over Texas Southern, albeit a closer than we would have liked win. And then on what day was that? Friday, a win over IU Indy. So might not be the prettiest, but all that matters is we're 2-0, Kenny.
Yeah, we're 2-0, and I think at this point last year, if we're in the same position this point last year and right now, I have a much better feeling about this team, just because I feel like there's a lot more offensive ability on this team to, when the offense breaks down or you have to get a bucket late in the shot clock. Conwell's a guy that you can really just put the ball in his hands and say, it might not be the greatest shot, but we feel comfortable with you taking it. So I think that's a big difference between this year's team and last year's team. Obviously, we had Quincy last year, who I always felt confident when he was shooting the ball, but it's just a little bit different because he was more of like in the corner or on the wing, kick out pass, one more, and he's a knockdown shooter. Everybody was confident with him shooting the ball, but it's just different being able to break a guy down and really just get a basket when you need it. I think that's one of the big differences. And then obviously, you have Fremantle back. Dalen Swain's playing at a high level. McKnight's going to be McKnight. He's going to do the things that he has to do. And then Foster I think he's going to be one of those like real just steady. You can count on him for a lot of different things. So that starting group of five, I feel really comfortable with in these games, and I think it's just going to take a little bit of time for them to really come together as a team.
Yeah, Kenny, I feel the same way. I think the biggest thing that I've taken away so far is just team chemistry. It's going to take some time, right? You've got kind of 5-6 new incomers. Add Fremantle and Hunter to that mix because they've been out for over a year.
Right.
So it's going to take a lot of time for these guys to really gel. The biggest thing I'm happy about is we have the point guard. That's the same guy from last year. So that's very consistent. We've got some post play now. A lot of that we struggled with, to be fair, I would say, with last year. So we've got that added to the mix. And you've got some real perimeter shooters that can step out and make some shots. I mean, you saw it with Conwell. We know what Maddox can do. I think it's just going to take him time, and he's getting his rhythm and seeing where he fits. And Marcus Foster stepped down and hit a big three too. So if he can come back to the clip that he was shooting a couple of years ago, I think we'd be really satisfied with that. And we've got a lot to make up with Traore being out. You've got a whole summer to Miller was thought he'd be in there for that game plan, and then 3 weeks before the season he takes that unfortunate fall and he's out. So it's going to take a lot of guys to kind of step up and get the rebounding. But, we've got some tall, big guards that can do it. You've got Swain, who's a beast that can come in there and fly, and he's rebounding aggressively, especially last game. And I think it's going to take a whole team effort. And these guys want to fly. That pace is fast, and McKnight's pushing it, and Miller's out there screaming and spitting and telling them to go, go, go. And, hopefully the defense gels. It seems all my teams in Cincinnati have trouble on defense this year, but hopefully this one, it just takes them some time to get together. So, excited. I think I feel confident. Team chemistry. I think we got a lot to root for.
Yeah, I think that Traore was a much bigger part of the team than a lot of people realized. Even guys like us who, we're talking from the very last game last year. I've been talking. I mean, it's not like we're talking every day, but once or twice a week, usually, maybe even a little bit more. We're talking about different updates in the Xavier basketball world and all that different stuff. And all of us I think Traore flew under our radar a little bit as far as how big of a piece he was going to be. And you go through that whole preseason, all of your practices, all the different things, and he's not there anymore. And now you have Dalen Swain starting, which I don't think that would have been the case. As much as I love the kid's game and the amount of work that he's put in and all that stuff, I don't think it would have been the case if Traore is in the lineup. But it's just a big change. That changes your team size-wise, speed-wise, your defensive schemes, all of that stuff changes, and probably on offense as well. But obviously, we're not going to know that until we get to see him play at some point, hopefully next year. But yeah, I think that's one of the big things this year is kind of figuring out that part of the game. How do you replace him, and how do you do it in a short span? And luckily, they have a couple games that are, I don't want to call them gimme games because they were definitely tougher than I think that they should have been. But I don't think that they go that way with Traore in the lineup.
Yeah, and I mean, in your opinion, what's the biggest area of concern right now actually on the court? Not like the team chemistry and everything, but is it the lack of rebounding with his injury, with him being out? Is it the perimeter defense? Kenny, what's your biggest concern?
I mean, I think rebounding is a big issue because I watched a lot of basketball last weekend, and you watching teams like Houston, Auburn, Baylor, Kentucky, Arizona, UConn, Creighton, all these teams, right? And I think that there's just one of the things that they really do well that they've been able to go out and do is just control games. I mean, UConn, they had a couple minutes where it was like, oh, wow, maybe UConn's not what they used to be, and then they go win by 35 or whatever it is. And Arizona wins by 150. Kentucky scores 100 points against Bucknell, who's, not the greatest team, but they went out and they handled their business. So I think that's one of the big things is just being able to take advantage of – I posted it on Twitter. I was like, stop playing with your food and go out and get this win because it was like – it's frustrating to watch because as these guys, you're watching them play and that talent-wise they're all better than every single person on the team they're playing against, but it's just not coming together. And I think that, defense and rebounding are going to be what we're talking about all year. It's either going to be in January we're saying like, man, this team really didn't rebound or play defense to the level that they needed to be really good, or we're going to be saying they got it all together and they're a top 10 team, because I think that is definitely within the realm of possibility because of how good the offense is. The defense needs to be serviceable, and rebounding, they need to get that from Dalen Swain, who I think we can all agree has been incredible on the glass. And, getting Hughley in there. Fremantle's obviously going to be a guy that can rebound, but they have bigger guards that can do it too. So it's just doing it in a different way than when Traore would have been playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, obviously, Zach Fremantle's going to lead the team in rebounding.
Right.
But off the top of your head, do either of you know who has the second most rebounds on the team right now?
I'm sure Ahmad does.
Ahmad might.
My guess would have been Dalen Swain or something silly like Trey Green.
It's Marcus Foster.
Of course.
He has the second most rebounds. Fremantle has 17 so far, and Foster has 11. So pretty big difference there. But, we'll see with Hughley too. I know, Kenny, you would know that position better than anybody.
So
what's your thoughts on Hughley so far?
One thing I want to point out about the rebounding is that in both games, Texas Southern shot 41% from the field, and IU shot 46% from the field.
IU
Indy. There's not a whole lot of rebounds to get. Teams are shooting the ball pretty well against us right now, even from three, especially from three. So that's one thing to remember. But I don't know. It's a really weird dynamic right now because like you said, we're watching a brand new team, and I think that Traore going out gives Dalen Swain this huge opportunity to come in and show how much work he's done throughout the season or throughout the off season. And I think that you've seen that. I don't think that we need Dalen Swain to score 20 points a game. I think if he's getting, one or two fast break dunks a game, one or two garbage buckets from offensive rebounds where he's just flying around and people can't find him and box him out, I think that would be a very successful season for Dalen Swain, averaging like 8 or 9 rebounds and 8 or 9 points. I think that's going to be the best Xavier team that you can put together with the group of guys they have.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk so much about Dalen Swain. I think the way he plays at fast pace, right? We expect him to be that next jump NBA player. If you notice in that first game versus Texas Southern, they put him on that guard that kept scoring, right? So they knew that when it was time to lock somebody down or time to go really alter someone's game or change the pace, it looks like he's going to be the guy, right? And with his athleticism, his length, that's what you would expect is a guy like him. It's just, hey, Dalen, your assignment now is to go lock this guy down. So, maybe he doesn't score double figures, maybe he doesn't average double figures, but maybe his rebounding numbers are high, his efficiency is high. And at the same time, it's just, his presence is made not in the box score, but maybe on the court where we need him to go out there and defend. Right. Because Kenny, you talked about rebounding being a concern early on for the team. I think that'll get cleaned up as a unit. Yeah. For me, it's perimeter defense. And I think to be able to have him out there and really use his length to follow a guard, whether it's a 1 through 4, he can go out there and put his length on him and really get some stops. And I think the other thing is communication on a defensive end. There are a couple times you're watching the game, you see the guys almost, whether they're over communicating or whether it's miscommunication, a couple times where they've lost their spot on defensive rotations. But I think it's just going to take time to gel.
Yeah. One of the big problems, though, is if Dalen's playing the 4, it's tough to have him go out and guard a prolific scorer at the 3 or 2 or so. I think that's one of the concerns. But just to kind of go back to the question that Coop asked about Hughley, I don't know what his role was going to be on the team with Traore being in. I think that it was going to be a lot of like Traore, Fremantle starting, playing the bulk of the minutes at the 4 and the 5, and then Hunter obviously coming in and getting his 20 minutes rotating and somehow with that. And then Hughley, I don't know, maybe he was brought in to play 25, 30 minutes. I don't know, but it seems like he was going to be a 10 to 15 minute guy, kind of see how his feel in the game is, if he's able to get good matchups where he's able to score in the post, if he's having a good game offensively, defensively, maybe he pushes those minutes up a little bit on a game-to-game basis. To me, that's kind of what my thought process was after, kind of seeing the first 2 games, understanding the role that Traore was going to play. That would be kind of where I thought his minutes would be. But now he's being put into a position where he's got to play. Oh, he only played 14 minutes last game, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think that I'm really struggling to see kind of how he plays into how fast that Miller wants to play.
Yeah, Coop, I mean? if I can add to that just on Hughley, we're all hoping he's that guy that he was 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously injuries, change a player. He's played a total of 20 minutes so far, right? 14 of them last game. The first game was a little bit of an anomaly. I think when we were down, double digits, and we're making that comeback, I think Miller's just saying, let's go win the game. Yeah. Didn't see much Trey Green, didn't see much Hughley. You saw Maddox play sparingly in that second half. So we basically we're at like a 6-man, 5-man rotation. Right. I think Hughley, if he can really come in there, show some defensive tenacity, and just attack the boards and do what he's done is what we wish a lot of our bigs did last year, was not foul.
Right.
So if he can continue that, if he can just take minutes and be a body, that's a big deal within itself.
Well, especially when you're playing against teams that are going to have 7', 7'1" big guys that need a body out there. I think that you're 100% right on that. Like, that could be a huge thing if he's able, even if he's just being a force on defense, not fouling, and on offense he kind of just is a moving piece to get the ball to your scorers. That's fine. That's fine with me. I think that would be a successful season for him, and that's when it's going to make Xavier the most successful. But I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Not fouling is the key.
And to wrap it up, I mean, you got to give the guy credit, what he's done in the offseason. Oh. They gave him a goal, right? And he went and achieved it. Yep. So I think similarly on the court, he'll do the same. I think it's just he's got to figure out the different style of play. It's a new team. Yep. He's got a, I would say, new body. And at the same time, he's really, he can move his feet and he can get out there when he needs to. And I'll tell you this, he can shoot free throws. The guy can shoot free throws. So, the team's shooting 82% right now. I know the lower bowl is going to love that. I think if we can keep it up, I think it'll just take him time. And again, I think it's a mix of that first game was kind of just a throwaway. And then the second game is a little bit more of, okay, maybe this is some rotations. And, Miller, I think, is going to end up playing, the best guys when the Big East comes around. You know, Kenny more than any of us that it gets tighter.
Oh yeah. Well, and they have one of the things that Coach Miller used to say, and also Coach Mack, was that they wanted us to make more free throws than the other team shoots. So that's, and I can guarantee you that's probably still something that he talks about, because you really can win and lose a game at the free throw line. So I agree with you on both of those things. He's shooting the free throws well. He's not fouling. I think it's just going to be how effective he can be on the defensive end, because offensively it's kind of like the guards are like, hey, we got this. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's true. So I think that he needs to just find his spot where he can make the team the most successful.
Hey, Kenny, real quick, free throws. First game we made 34. Texas Southern shot 13.
Yeah.
Second game we made 18. Indy shot, IU, whatever you want to call them. They shot 12. Yeah. So on par.
Yeah. So we know the recipe for winning then. You got to make more free throws than they shoot. You know, and Ahmad, you just said IU, Indy, whatever you want to call them. That's what I want to call them. No longer IUPUI, whatever. But that same night that Xavier beat IU Indianapolis, another team from Indianapolis lost. I'm talking about the Butler Bulldogs.
Yeah.
They, unfortunately, lost to Austin Peay already. I mean, Kenny, I'm sure you were devastated finding that out.
I was devastated, and I'm sure that Butler fans are trying to say that these losses early in the season to, buy games or, Q3 teams, whatever you want to call it. I think that they are probably feeling the same way that we did last year and trying to make people feel like it doesn't really matter that much. And, Butler fans were very kind to me, and they made sure that I knew that it mattered a lot. So I guess I would just like to take a second to make sure that they understand that losing to Austin Peay is a big deal, and they'll be feeling that all season.
Yeah. It's hey, if you're not as animated as Austin Peay's coach is, then you shouldn't be coaching basketball. I mean, they came ready to play. He came fully geared up, ready to play. And I believe they have that.
One arm. I don't know the proper term for that. But
so I believe his name is, or I'm blanking on his name, but that was also for that young man, everything he's doing, and to go out and steal one at Butler.
Yeah,
that's oof.
I guess the question is. I guess the question is, did they steal it?
Well.
Was it a buy game? That's my question.
Was it the epitome of brutality? I mean, probably. I don't know. I don't know too much about Austin Peay other than their initials are AP, like the AP poll, which, first of all, the AP poll in general as a concept for any sport is pointless and absurd. But the AP poll just came out today, and Xavier, despite the sloppy start, whatever you want to call it, is still receiving votes, and we only go to 25. But Xavier is the 29th team in the AP poll.
So it does mean a lot. I mean,
it means a lot.
It's a very good poll. But it's. I mean, I think that's kind of where everybody was thinking preseason that Xavier would start the season in that like 25 to 35 range. I think there was a couple that I saw. A couple preseason rankings that I saw that Xavier was high as 23. But that's not – these preseason polls, you might as well just throw a dart at a dartboard, man. Like there's just nothing – especially with all of the transfers, all of the movement between teams, different chemistry, different guys that are going to be the guy, maybe a guy taking a step down from being the guy on a team. It's just – I don't know. It's so hard to do that even when – the transfer portal wasn't there, just like based on freshmen coming in, performance last year. At least you had that for these polls. Now it's like you're judging, how did Conwell play at Indiana State and how is he going to play in the Big East? It's almost impossible to even make the comparison. So I don't put a lot of weight on these polls in the beginning. But currently, DePaul and Georgetown are ahead of Butler in the Big East right now. So that's nice.
Stop the count.
Stop the count. These polls completely matter. It's cool to see 4 Big East teams in there. I'll say that. Yeah. It's good to get that recognition, I guess, with the AP poll again. So it's whether we creep in there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the kind of the blowback from the Mountain West getting all those teams in the tournament was last year. It's going to be really interesting to see if they kind of go the same way, or if they're going to take these teams from the power conferences over those teams, even when it's like maybe the that lower conference team might have a little bit better resume, but how are they going to do in the tournament? It's going to be interesting to see how they go, because the committee got burned last year with that decision, and I think that they heard it from a lot of people. Unless you're a Mountain West fan, they heard it from pretty much everybody, and some of those first round games were just boring to watch. It wasn't even fun. And I don't know that I'm not sitting here saying that I think Xavier should have been in the tournament, but certainly St. John's and Seton Hall should have been in the tournament.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my head is with that. And I think that you're going to see kind of a shift in the way that they pick those teams this year. I think that they learned their lesson on that.
So you're saying you guys did not expect Xavier to be top 25 based on the way too early day after the Final Four championship game is done and Xavier was in there?
Well, I will say that I had supreme confidence that Miller was going to put together a team this year that was going to compete and have this ceiling of being a top 25 team. I thought that 100% that was going to be the case. So when people were talking about it, I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. And then all of a sudden you see Xavier loses 10 guys and you're like, okay, Miller he's clearing house. He's keeping the guys that he feels like can be successful on a top 25 basketball team, and he's going to do whatever he can to go out and get it. And you saw the push with the final 2%. We did a little bit of work with them last year, and just like watching that whole process unfold and kind of the desperation of the Xavier fan base, and just the donors and all this stuff to really pull in some NIL money. I think that people understood last year that there was a couple opportunities that Xavier missed out on because they didn't have enough money. And unfortunately, that's the world that we're living in now. I don't think that there's any doubt in anybody's mind that these players should be paid. But I think that it's just the Wild West right now, and they need to find a system that still allows for just being a good recruiter rather than just saying, like, Warren Buffett's our donor. We can give you $10 million.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and hey, get a bunch of guys that are bought in over 3 months over the summer. That's huge. And my last note, Coop, on the AP poll is, if you're looking where Xavier is, right, the team right ahead of us is who we play on Saturday. So every game counts. Wake Forest is a good team. They're seen as that on the cusp top 25 team. So we're gonna be tested here early on, and I'm happy it's at home.
Yeah, that'll be big. Let's not skip Jackson State.
Absolutely.
Can't do that. Of course, that game is, as you're listening to this, tonight at 8:30 on Fox Sports 1, I believe. But, that is on the 12th. 11/12 is the date. As we record it, it's 11/11, which what do you do at 11/11? You make a wish, right? So I put it on Twitter, asking our loyal fan base if they had one Xavier basketball related wish, what would it be? And we got some good replies. I'll start with the most liked reply, and it's from Courtney Oliveri, Quincy's mother, who we did a podcast with.
Friend of the podcast.
And she, her wish would be for Quincy to win one more shootout. So, we'll look and see if there's any eligibility left, and if he wants to leave the Los Angeles Lakers to come back to Xavier.
Well, I mean, the thing is that he was able to in 1 year change the name of the city to Cincinnati. So I think that he, from here on out, is probably a part of all of the wins. So I think that's a good place to be in. And
I almost didn't recognize you, Kenny, without the Cincinnati sweatshirt on.
Yeah, almost wore it. I mean, we did come up with the term on our stream, right? And it got stolen from us. And we had, I mean, it was a big court case. We decided to drop the charges. We didn't want to, but it's not a big deal. Yeah. No, I mean, talk about that story though. Quincy is just, and we haven't really got to talk about it too much. We had a little piece on it last time we talked, but just isn't it crazy how he goes from Cincinnati, who he basically won over the entire city, all the Xavier fans at least, And then he goes off to LA, you know, the big lights come on, he's playing with LeBron and Bronny. But like, it's crazy to see him step into that moment and just be exactly who we all know Quincy is. He's got the smile, he's got the talent, he's got the charisma, the personality, all of that stuff. And he was able to take it over on an even bigger stage. People were talking about him. How many times do you hear the national media talking about a guy that went undrafted, that's playing for the G League now, which I don't think is going to be like that for much longer. I think he's going to find his way into a spot. How often do you see something like that happen? And in my mind, all I kept going back to was only Quincy could do that, because that's just who he is.
He's made for LA.
Yeah.
He's got that personality. I mean, you can't help but I haven't seen any picture or video when he's not smiling. And how about the man's G League debut, 28-10?
Yeah.
Led the team. Bring that man up. Let him play.
Mm-hmm.
Let him get out there and get a few minutes. He's not just the story and the name. Hooper's hoop, right, Kenny?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this guy can hoop. 28-10. I think six assists and a steal. I mean, he was just everywhere. He definitely deserved his two-way, and hopefully he gets some run and can help them make a serious playoff push to help keep LeBron's legacy alive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know, and I won't spend too much time on this, but I don't think he'd mind me sharing it. But we went to the March Madness games, the first four in Dayton, and we were sitting there watching one game. And we were just talking, and Quincy was saying that, you know, like all the success and stuff isn't surprising to him because he prays for it and works hard at it and just visualizes it. Like we did the March Madness stream too, and we had some technical issues, but he was saying that he was like going through trying to like visualize getting drafted and stuff, and was like putting on the Roll Blob hat, acting like he was getting drafted, and had the Blobby Award like he was winning the 3-point contest and stuff like that. But like, if there's one guy that's going to adapt to any environment he's in, it's going to be Quincy. So like, it seems crazy to probably not us because we've been around him and watched his game and every single game he played at Xavier and know all of that. But, you know, to an outside person, just watching, like, who's this undrafted guy from Rice and Xavier who's getting tagged in Steph Curry's Instagram post now? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It is really cool to see.
Well,
but
yeah, and we're kind of, you know, we're up a little bit on, like, how many people follow people on Twitter and stuff, because we're always looking at that for the Roll Blob Twitter and stuff like that. And I don't know if you've noticed that his Twitter in the last like 3 months, I remember looking at it thinking like, I wonder how crazy it's going to be, just like with all the ESPN stuff and people talking about him going on TV and all this different stuff. I looked at it. He went from like, I think like 3,500 followers to like 16,000 within like a 2-week period.
Wow.
And I mean, and Twitter followers, who cares, right? Nobody, like anybody that's,
I do a little.
Well, but I'm just saying, like, it's a cool thing to be able to gain followers and, like, you know, people want to hear what you have to say, all that stuff. But the reason that he got those followers is because people just believed and loved his story. And I think that that's a really cool, like, organic way to gain followers. There's, you know, people have all these schemes and different things they do to gain followers. And he literally was just himself. And they were like, yeah, this dude, I want to hear more about what he has to say. And I really wish him all the success. I try and talk to him every once in a while just to see how he's doing. But it seems like he's thriving out there.
Yeah. And another wish was from Quincy Oliveri Muse. So, you know, you've made it when you have a Muse account. If you're on Twitter, you've probably seen them. But, this account, I guess I'll call it, their wish is for him to get the minutes he's earned on the NBA team. So in due time. Then back to Xavier basketball, current Xavier basketball. Jess, her wish is for the perimeter defense to get better. I know we kind of touched on that a little bit. Is the answer going to be Dalen Swain being out there more, or is it truly just going to be, if you're Texas Southern, if you're IU Indy, you know you're not going to win the game. You know that. So what are you going to do? You're outside. You're going to shoot threes, right? That's not going to be the case throughout the whole season. Would you guys agree, or is there more to that?
Well, I mean, the 2 games so far, teams are shooting 24 for 51 from 3. I would venture to guess that that's probably the best percentage against a team in the country right now after 2 games. I mean, that's other than the teams maybe that Kentucky played because of Kobe Bryant. But no, I think that there's definitely something to the fact that people were just playing with we have nothing to lose. I'm going to go out and shoot as many threes as I can and hope they go in, and maybe we'll be in the game. I think there's partially that, and it's also partially the perimeter defense. I think that they just need to shore that up a little bit. And, with the 3 guys that they have on defense, I think that from the very beginning, Rick Browering, one of the very first spaces that he did after they brought on Maddox and Conwell was who's going to be their defender, who's going to be I'm worried about their defense. I think that that's going to be something that they struggle with all year, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a problem for them to win games as long as they need to get a little bit better. Don't get me wrong. I don't want them to go out and do what they're doing now the whole season. I think they're going to figure it out to some degree, but offensively, I really see this team scoring 80 to 90 points a game against whoever they play just because of how talented they are.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the recipe for success for us is outscoring the other team. I mean, Miller recruits scorers. Clearly, you see it with this team. Sure, Texas Southern was ranked pretty near the bottom in the NCAA on offense efficiency and their scoring efforts. I mean, I think they only put up like 60 points in their next game, in their second game. But when you're banking threes, hitting step back threes, doing all that, playing with house money,
yeah, I mean,
you're going to shoot better.
But they only scored 60 points in their next game, but they only scored 69 against Xavier.
Nice.
Nice.
Love that.
No, but that kind of goes back to they were ranked at the bottom. That goes back to the similar thing of the AP poll. It's like nobody knows who Texas Southern's going to be until they come out and actually play a game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can compile stats with wherever these guys played last year. You can do all of that stuff and try and put together. I mean, I'm sure that there's an algorithm or AI somewhere that can do that. Yeah, I see you, Coop. But I'm sure that there's something out there that can do that, a program, something like that. But until you actually see this group of guys go out on the court, to say that they're near the bottom in offensive efficiency, you can't know that. So just because they played well against Xavier doesn't mean that Xavier's this horrible defensive team. I think that defense is going to be a struggle for them, and they need to, like I said, they need to shore that up a little bit. But I just don't. And it's the first game of the season. These guys, most of them have never played together before. It's just there's going to be some growing pains, but I think you're going to start to see this iron itself out over the next couple games. I mean, obviously they need to have it going by Wake Forest, because if not, Wake Forest is going to boat race them, because Wake Forest is a very good team, and Xavier's got to be ready for it. And I just don't know if every single game of the season you want to be saying, well, let's just see if we can outscore the other team. They need to have some type of defensive improvement.
Kenny, would you do anything? I know we're a man-to-man team, right?
Yeah.
Would you do anything with different defensive schemes? Would you try to go 3-2? Would you try to do 1-3 and at least test it out early? I mean, Dalen's got long arms. Do you have him a la JP Makura back in the day when we'd throw that defense out there and he would just wreak havoc? Do you try to do that to, I know people can shoot over zones. I get that, but if we're athletic and can get the spots and make people waste time and throw over, would you try that early?
So when I played for Miller, and this is something that stuck with me through my career at Xavier, and Coach Mack was the same way, but then my professional career, and now that I'm getting into coaching a little bit for my son's team, and just like talking to my high school coach about like what his tendencies are, and just trying to become a little bit more of a student of the game, right? In my opinion, there's no better defense than man-to-man. I think that when you start going into zones and things like that, it's, you're doing it for a specific reason, whether it be a matchup problem or whatever. But I will say, I mean, Coach Miller and Coach Mack always used to say, man-to-man's our fastball. The 1-2-2, 3-2, whatever you want to call it, is our changeup. And I think that you'll probably end up seeing Miller use it as like a, On a make, we're going 3-2. I think I can't remember. We used to call it 5. I want to say 5-1. I can't remember, but on a make we're going 5. On a miss we're going 1, and like that kind of thing I could see them doing. But on a consistent basis, I would be surprised to see it. But I don't know. I mean, Miller's going to coach the guys that he has. If he feels like that's the best way forward, he probably will give it a try. But I would guess that you're probably not going to see it on a consistent basis, but you might see it get into Big East play, because the thing is that a lot of teams, most teams are going to have 20, 30, 40 plays against man-to-man, and against zone they're going to have 3 or 4. So it's definitely easier to scout from that perspective, but really making the point guard and the other players think about what defense are they in when we're coming down the court is much more important than playing zone, I think. At least that's from my perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm just happy you had a baseball reference in there. So, the fastball, the changeup. And I've kind of been just dwelling on when you said algorithm, because who is it that claims he invented the internet? Al Gore. And what are we talking about on the internet now?
See, I thought you were talking
algorithm.
I thought you were talking about when I said AI.
Well, yeah, we don't have enough time for me to start talking about that. But I'm just thinking there's got to be some deeper meaning to the word algorithm. Al Gore's rhythm.
Yeah.
Al Gore's got rhythm.
Yeah. All coming together now.
Now, so the other what was I just going to talk about before you started talking about Al Gore rhythms?
I had pressing things that I needed to.
No, what I was going to say was I was thinking about you earlier today, because when I was thinking about Maddox and how he hasn't played as much, I was like, I wonder if Miller has him on a pitch count. And then I knew that if I said pitch count, you were going to say thank you for the baseball reference.
Hey, you know me too well. Baseballreference.com, by the way, is a great website.
Okay.
But finishing up these wishes, I'll get through them real quick. Xavier Popes just says beat UC. Crosstown Shootout's about a month away, December 14th. So
my birthday. That's my birthday wish.
Live stream for that. Do not forget. People are always talking about it.
Yeah, 2 p.m. live stream, Crosstown Shootout. Ahmad, did you say that's on your birthday?
That's my birthday wish this year. It's always around my birthday, and in the past 5 years, I've got my birthday wish. So,
is your birthday December 14th?
That is correct.
Man, that's my half birthday.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate the right way on ESPN. On ESPN Plus.
Yeah. Hey, I have ESPN Plus if you need it. Which, man, that's
ESPN Plus, but muted, because everybody should be watching the Roll Blob live stream.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, actually, save that. We're talking about 11/11. Save that $11 a month. Don't even get ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch it. Just watch us. We'll tell you.
We'll tell
you what's going on.
Yeah, active in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Just watch the little ESPN.
I'll do my best to make sure the score is current.
Yeah. Be like, oh man, we were watching a rerun from last year.
Yeah.
But that was Xavier Popes beat UC. East Coast Muskie says Final Four or bust. Dalen Swain fan club says that we beat bad teams by 25 or more. I think that will actually happen against Jackson State. With all due respect to them, they are not good.
Yeah.
They're projected to lose I think every game this year and next year. They're that bad. So hopefully we can see some good offense, some good defense, everything in between.
We got to play the game, my friend.
You got to play the game.
Yeah, and like I said, these 3 games coming up to the Wake Forest game, it's giving them the time that they need to gel together and figure out the roles for each other. The one person that I still just can't get a read on, and I know that Ahmad was talking about Hughley and the first game being an anomaly and all that stuff, which I think could 100% be the case. But, Maddox has 24 total minutes this year.
Yeah.
Over 2 games. And that's not what I was sold as a – oh, no, sorry, he's got 34 minutes. But regardless, that's not what I was sold when he came on. From what I was told by – the Twitterverse and just watching who they were being recruited by and all this different stuff. It was that him Maddox and Conwell were going to be the two guys on the team that were scoring the ball every single night. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for that to be what happens, but for some reason Maddox isn't getting the minutes, and that's why I'm kind of wondering, like, maybe he's nursing an injury, or maybe he's doing something, maybe practice just isn't going his way. I don't know, but I'm excited. I really want to see what happens with him next game, and then once you get to that Wake Forest game where you're really playing a top-tier opponent, how much does he get on the court? Because that's really going to tell you a lot, unless he has some type of injury that he's working through.
Yeah, Kenny, I'm on the same page, man. I mean, he's got 3 total points on the year. And whether I don't know what it is now, the other variable, maybe if McKnight's hitting the way he's hitting from 3,
right,
like he was last game, and you got Conwell out there, can you play those 3? We saw that lineup for a little bit, but is it what's needed, especially if McKnight's running the offense and hitting the 3?
Well, especially with Swain at the 4. You're already playing small.
With Swain at the 4, and then you got either Fremantle or Hughley coming in at the 5, which at some point we got to talk about. They did play those 2 together last game, which was kind of interesting. Hughley and Fremantle, I did not think we'd see them at all together. They played a little bit together last game, but
I think you're going to see that lineup a lot against teams that have legitimate 7-footers. I think you're going to see Hughley playing as many minutes as fouls, his body, everything will allow. I think you're going to see him play a lot more minutes when they have to match up with those guys down low. Yeah.
But I'll say this. They did look really good when they had that core of Conwell, Maddox, McKnight in there. Mm-hmm. And when they threw in Hunter and Fremantle as well, that 5 looked really, really good.
Dude, I actually got out of my seat and when I saw Hunter come on the court for the first time this year. I was so happy.
I did not like how he was brought on, and I know Miller had to get him out there. I was hoping it would be off a free throw, off out of bounds, and he came in out of a timeout. And same thing happened the second game. He came in after a timeout.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's under 4 is when you're going to see Hunter come in.
Yeah.
I would have really wished we could have seen him come off the bench and get that applause that he so rightfully deserved.
Yeah.
The guy looks big. He looks like he's
moving really well too.
Yeah, I mean, his touch is going to take a little bit of time. He took a 3 and missed it, and then he's got fortunate those couple layups that were missed in that second game. But I mean, shoot, everybody was missing layups that second game. We were like 10 for 15,
right?
2 for 15, excuse me, in the first half. But Kenny, great to see him out there.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't wait. We're all rooting for that guy, for him and for Fremantle. And I think Hunter, again, it's going to take some time for him to get out there, and once he does, I think he's going to be a huge contributor.
I agree 100%, and I want to get to the next game because I feel like you're going to see this team. I think you're going to see this team grow over every single game. You're going to see a better product than the game before. So, I'm always going to be excited for that next game once the previous one ended, because I have to imagine that they're just still trying to find their roles specifically on the team, because Coach Miller can give you a role, right? And you know what he wants you to do, but when it comes to game time and your teammates are throwing you the ball in certain positions, or you're getting the ball in certain positions, and there's you have a matchup you like, or whatever it is, those roles kind of form themselves differently than what maybe you expected them to be in the preseason. So every single game, I feel that they're going to be a better product than the game before, and so that's why I'm excited for this next game coming up. And then obviously Wake Forest is going to be their first really big test. And if they're able to go 4-0 through that first big test, that sets them up very well for the rest of the season, because the Big East is going to be a slog this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need all the experience and all of the confidence that they can get going into that preseason or that season conference play.
Yeah, I'm just hoping against Wake Forest that Xavier just shoots threes like crazy and plants trees, so we can, I'll think of it. But Wake Forest, we're planting our own forest here, because they're planting 10 trees for every 3 made again this year. I don't know if I'm chopping them down yet or not.
I would say that this year, you know what? Take a break this year.
I mean, Chick-fil-A is taking a break. I might take a break this year. I don't know. Someone else can do it.
They're not sinking for chicken anymore?
No, they're skipping it this year. They're like, the Chick-fil-A nuggets of the game. And it's like, okay, great. You
Yeah.
just like got some stats and put it on a graphic. Whoop-de-doo, whatever.
They were
But,
like, you know what? Xavier's looking like they're going to make 10 threes in a lot of games this year. We can't just be giving away nuggets every week.
yeah, I mean, they watched Conwell and Davion McKnight not miss a single shot, basically, and like, yeah, we're not doing it. But honestly, I am trying to do this. If anyone can point me in the right direction, I'm going to find out who is planting these trees. I know the company behind it. I'm talking about the individual planting these trees, and I want to interview them. I want to have them on the podcast.
It would be nice if we knew if they were all going in the same place, or are they just like in an airplane just dropping.
Yeah, and are they local trees? Like what? I need to know more details on this. I don't feel comfortable just saying, "Oh yeah, we planted trees." Trust me. Like I look
our
outside,
trees
there's
replanting the Amazon rainforest? Is that like, because that would be nice?
that'd be really nice. And if Xavier basketball could make a difference like that, that would be huge. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable just knowing like, oh yeah, we planted them. Just trust us.
Hey,
Just doesn't make me feel
Xavier's building a new med school. I mean, we're just really contributing, to the betterment of the earth, eco-friendly and medically, and it's just what we do.
Yeah, just no football, which whatever. But
It'll come. It'll come.
you know where they well yeah, they do have football. I was gonna say Canada doesn't, but they do. But in Canada they do have Tim Hortons, which large Tim Hortons 1111 wish is that Coach Miller stays and stays and stays for the next 20 years at Xavier. 20 years.
Retweet.
I don't know. I just don't know what else Miller really. I mean, obviously he wants to win a championship, all that stuff. What else does he have to prove to anybody?
Nothing.
He's done so much in his career already. I honestly have no idea. I've never talked to him about it, but I just don't see I don't see any way that he leaves Xavier unless like I don't even know who could call. I mean, North Carolina.
Well, that's the thing. Last year,
Kansas, like who?
Okay, maybe yeah, Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, whatever. But they all have their coaches.
Right.
Last year, Kentucky filled their spot. Ohio State filled their spot. Those were the two teams that we were worried about.
Right.
And that didn't happen. So
yeah, I don't even know. Just from my perspective, looking in from the outside after being a part of his first coaching change going to Arizona, I just look at it like he made the big step one time. It didn't turn out maybe the way that he wanted it to. There was a lot of, obviously, I don't have to get into that part of things, but like, I think he's kind of looking at it like, it's just like a breath of fresh air. I can come back here. The program's in a much different position than I was the first time I was here. I have a legitimate, people from other schools all the time like to talk about their brand. I think Xavier has a really good brand as far as basketball is concerned. And they have the school, they have the fan base, they have the money now, all the different things that they needed to make a push to put together a national championship team. I don't think that it's impossible for Xavier to do that. There are schools where it's actually impossible. They're never going to get a chance to do it. But Xavier is in a Power 5 conference. They have the name, the brand, whatever you want to call it. And Xavier has been a successful school over the last 25 years, 30 years. They've been a successful basketball program. The next step is getting to that Final Four, and I think that Miller's the person that can do it. And if he does, they're going to build a statue of him.
Yeah, and he's getting the guys that he wants. I would say for the most part in the portal. If he can continue to get the guys he wants and build the team that he wants to build, I just think that just adds more to why they want to keep him here.
And that's the thing about Miller is that, like, there's other schools out there that are going to be able to maybe offer you more money or these, like, whatever it is, something that may be better, that's better than Xavier. Money is the first thing that comes to mind. But the thing about Miller is that every single player that's ever played for him will tell you that he is the ultimate player's coach. Mm-hmm. Like, in every aspect. I mean, I haven't actually been around him a lot since, obviously, I played for him my freshman year, but being recruited by him, playing for him my freshman year, all that stuff, every single guy, there wasn't a guy in the locker room that was like, oh man, like I wish Miller did this. Like, why is he doing this to me? It was always like, oh, he's doing this because I need to get better at this, or I need to get better at that. There's like that, and that ability is not something that everybody has, because you can say and I don't know what it is about Miller. It's just his demeanor and the way that he talks, because he can be all out screaming at you for something, and in your mind you're saying, okay, yeah, he just wants me to get better. But then another guy's saying the exact same thing, screaming at me in the exact same way, and I'm like, why is he talking to me like that? Like, there's no reason for you to talk to me like that. So it's just I can't really put a finger on it, other than the fact that like he's just really good at what he does.
Yeah. If you're a guard, why don't you want to come here? Right?
Yeah.
Other positions as well, but if you're a guard, he's proven that he's going to take you to that next level.
Yep.
He did it. He's doing it with McKnight. He did it with Quincy. He did it with Sule. Though that's 3 examples right there. You want to get to the next level. You want to make some good money in your next step.
Yep.
Why not come here? You're not competing with football. You are the school. You know, credit to a lot of the other teams that Xavier has. I mean, women's soccer is like right outside the top 25. But you are the team on campus, and the students were jumping the last 2 games.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it was loud. They brought the energy. You know, you're loved on campus, and you're playing you're playing for a stud like Miller's. I don't know why you wouldn't want to come here.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just completely ignore the nationally ranked dance team, but whatever.
Yeah.
But finishing up these wishes, you mentioned that if Xavier goes to a Final Four, they'll build a statue of him. Leslie Lewis, that's her wish, is for the Final Four. Brian L., I like this one, says finally sign a recruit named Xavier. Yes, that would be great. And the last one here is from our good friend Crangus, who wishes that Kenny was still in his prime and granted another year of eligibility to join the team. So,
yeah, now look at me.
We'll work on it.
I'm old and balding and fat. I mean,
making decent money, though.
Making decent money. right. But I don't know. I'm very excited for this. And if Xavier does go to the Final Four, I have made the commitment that I'm going to get the turkey tattoo on me. So that's just a little bit more motivation for I'm sure that all the Xavier players know that. So
we'll make it public knowledge. We can get
it's
AI.
it's already on Twitter.
Yeah. But
do you know the location? You got the location picked out?
I'll probably put it on my thigh, like my quad.
Turkey thigh.
Turkey thigh.
I can't put it on my my butt or something, because then I can never show people. They'll just have to know it's there.
It might be frowned upon, but
fair enough. Well, that's our podcast. Xavier resumes play tonight. Jackson State, 8:30, Fox Sports 1. Kenny, finish us off with 2 words and 2 words only.
Stay blobbing.